Hello, everyone. This is Auto Asphyxiation. This is Lark.
And Kimberly.
That's right. And today is election day. Election day. We are voting for it was the primary election. And also there's some assembly races, some mayor races, a whole bunch of things going on. I think in New York they're going to have the mayoral race. I
Yeah,
think that's happening.
I have the mayoral race here in East Orange.
Oh yeah. I saw we actually had some. I remember that mayoral person, and then I remember Chaz was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't see her on the ballot." I'm like, "That's East Orange. It was a Bloomfield coffee shop. Skippity Doo. No, I forgot. Skidoo. I forgot. That's not the name of the place, but it's called. I think Skidoo, and it had her on there or something like that. Yeah. So again, we are journalists, so we're not what we're talking about is not partisan. But the thing is, this is that objective doesn't mean you look out the sky and rain is raining on your face and you go, "Oh, I think it may be raining, it may not," because some people think it's not raining. Look, if you go outside and the rain's hitting your face, you go, "Yes, it's raining outside." So we may make comments about people because of things that they do. It's not partisan. It's just us observing what is happening.
Facts are facts.
Facts are facts. Also, I send I send fortitude and strength. I don't do prayers because I'm an atheist to Los Angeles, as they fight the fascists invading their communities. I want to stress that they are being attacked. ICE, all ICE, they are the violent ones. The, People are defending themselves, and they have every right to defend themselves. And you know, I think that's just kind of what I want to say. But also, because of what's happening in Los Angeles, because of the governor race in New Jersey, we're today we're going to talk about, how do you stay true to your beliefs, and what are the dangers of empowering far right candidates in the environment that we're in right now. We understand that we are in an environment where our government has been taken over by a person who is an authoritarian, who is a fascist, and that's a threat. It's a threat to our civil rights. It's a threat to this country. It's a threat to democracy. But we're kind of like, oh, but I have these certain beliefs. How do I reconcile that? So that's what we're talking about today. You're gonna say something, Kimberly?
Well, I just to piggyback onto what you're saying about Los Angeles, I just want to send my own message of solidarity to the people of LA. I used to live in California and I did very much love LA and California. And yes, I think that talking about how we can stay true to our own moral codes while still harm reducing and protecting our democracy is a very important conversation for us to have right now.
Yes, it's really important. I mean, that's kind of like, how, as if you're a progressive or a left leaning voter, like, how do we approach the primary? I mean, is it possible to support a more progressive candidate in a primary while committing to voting for the Democratic nominee in the in the general election? I mean, the thing is that in my own head, I feel that I'm hoping that, yes, we all have people that we want to vote for, that we favor. But I feel like I hope that we can all come together to essentially come against any candidate that is that promises to further this a fascist authoritarian agenda. And I mean, do you think that's possible, Kimberly?
I think I'd like to share my own experiences as, like as a person who previously was a non-voter, and was a person that often used to say, back in the good old days, that yeah, both sides were the same. And I just didn't, I was an anarchist and I didn't want anything to do with that. I was like, I do not consent, like kind of a person. But then, like, I learned more and I grew up more. And I came to understand that it is very important to hold on to your ideals, obviously, but it's also very important to understand the landscape that we're dealing with. I voted for Kamala Harris in the general election last year, and I fucking hate cops. I hate cops. I was raised in New York City as a child in the 70s and 80s when it was absolutely corrupt and you couldn't trust any of the public officials. And I was taught to hate cops. When we left our apartment, I was given 5 dimes in my little secret jeans pocket. And I was told that if I got separated from my family, that I was to find a guardian angel, which was a vigilante group in New York City. They're still there now, but to a much lesser extent. They're way more right wing than they were in the 70s. And I was told to find a guardian angel and to absolutely not go to the police. So I hate cops. And I read Project 2025. I've watched the infographics and videos, and I made a decision to uphold my morals by voting for Kamala Harris, who everybody likes to say is a cop, but she wasn't really. Like, let's be realistic. She's not walked a beat and given out like parking tickets, okay? Um, and I did the right thing. And my husband also did the right thing because the writing was very much on the wall with Project 2025. And I could have sat out as I have in the past, but I did the right thing.
For for a very long time, kind of give you my kind of voting history. For a very long time, I was a registered as part of a third party. I'm not going to say which third party it is, but I was registered part of the third party, as was my mother. My grandfather was a socialist. He actually was part of the people who started a socialist bookstore in South Central Los Angeles. And when I saw Trump in like 2016, I I I also kind of was on the path that I want to say like very anarchist leaning. And I thought, wow, I've been around this long and I thought it was going to get better. I thought, oh, eventually, this is what I thought. I thought eventually this was all going to like disappear. The people were going to get sick, was going to disappear, and liberation was going to come. And I realized as I got older, no, it seems that me not participating in a mainstream political party was allowing it to get worse. It was getting worse every single time, every single year that I wasn't participating, it was getting worse. It wasn't getting better. And so I remember when I saw Trump, I thought in 2016, I was like, I have to vote. I have to vote. I have to register for the Democratic Party because at that point, the thing is also too in California, you can vote for a mainstream party regardless of your political party. So for the first time when I moved to New Jersey, I had to register as a Democrat, and I was like, even though like the me before would have been like, no, I'm not going to do it. My values, I cannot do that. I do not want to be part of the duopoly. I realized people were going to die if I didn't participate in a more active way. And when Trump was elected, I was proven right that he was literally a danger to the country, harmful. And the thing is that his harm didn't cause the revolution. People didn't rise up. They cowered. And I really at this point I was like, okay, this is, and I think this kind of goes into the next question. What lessons from 2024 presidential election can apply to 2026, the midterms, and in November, the New Jersey governor's race. Like what can we learn from that?
Well, I think that we we have to show out in strength and numbers. That is, and we have to take a note from the French, who formed a coalition government on their all of their left wing parties united. And they actually have left wing parties in France. All of their left wing parties united to make sure that the far right party could not gain power. And that's what we need to do here. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do it with some fringe third party like we might like to do. We're going to have to look and swallow our pride a little bit and gear up and go along with the Democrats.
I think the thing is that I'm really concerned about, and I've talked to you about this, is that in the general, election, I'm afraid that a third party will put up a spoiler. And the thing is, the reason why this matters so much is that while Jack in so many other elections was kind of a joke, like, oh, he's running for office, ha ha ha, no, not a problem, no one. But now he has the eye of Trump, and he's like, I'm sure Trump is going to be giving him money in order to run for office. So the thing is, this is that I feel like, and here's the thing, I kind of sit in as I'm an AP, I work as well, hopefully I keep doing it. I work as an AP stringer. And so I've watched the Associated Press. I've watched the results every single election. And I have seen and watched how New Jersey is purple. It is not blue. It is.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. South Jersey is deep red.
Yeah, it's deep red. And what has been happening right now, we look at what's been happening right now in Los Angeles, and I don't know what's going to happen in it's June. We don't know what's going to happen in November. What will the moderates be thinking? Will the moderates be like, oh, should we, are we going to vote for the Democrat? Are we going to vote for the Republican? Are we going to vote for like law, or they call it law and order, even though they're far from law and order. They're not even following the law. I mean, in California, they're like, oh, we're going to call the National Guard. The president can't call the National Guard. That's not a thing. That's, screw due process, screw like the process of how we do things. They don't care about the law.
The last time that, and I'm sure you've read this as well, but for our listeners, if you don't know, the last time that the president federalized the National Guard was during desegregation in Alabama. And he did that to protect the protesters because the governor of Alabama was going to utilize the National Guard to put down protesters.
Yeah, so that, that should be happening to protect people's civil rights, not to dismantle people's civil rights. And I think, here's another thing too. And this is something that I noticed like during the presidential election. A lot of people were saying, well, pox on both their houses. Harris is a fascist. And I was like, what? Okay, look. And now, even in the governor race, people are calling certain people names. And I have, through the governor race in New Jersey, I have refrained from really getting involved in real mudslinging. Because here's the thing. There are consequences of equating like a flawed Democratic Party candidate with a far right candidate. I'm not even calling them Republican. This is not a Republican Party I even recognize anymore. These are fascists. I don't even want to call it. It's not even part. They're not even Republican anymore. They are something else. They are something else. So at this point, where does strategic voting coming in? Like, how can we? I mean, what do you think we can do in regards to? I know I feel like I'm interviewing you. I don't mean to be interviewing you, but like, okay, well, there is a consequence between equating a flawed person and a far right person. Like, I mean, are you even having an honest discussion at this point if you're doing stuff like that?
Well, you know, I had a conversation with my stepson today where we went over like the sample ballot because I'm going to take him to go vote with me tomorrow. And I you know, I told him, I was like, you're never going to find a person that 100% mirrors your morality and ideology, because if you want to, then you should just run for office. You're just never going to find a person that 100% mirrors your ideology. So you have to do the best that you can. And we're in a situation right now where strategic voting means swallowing your pride and voting for who can best combat a fascist fucking takeover.
And I think that's the thing too. We're when you the person that you're voting for. I think, if you can't vote for somebody who is your representative, vote for somebody that you can that will fight fair. So at least if you're fight for an adversary that's going to fight fair, that is going to have and here's and the thing is that we have seen that the Trump administration will not fight fair. We've seen this. We've seen what they will do. This is not like a hypothetical, like, oh, they're going to like take people and round them up and put them in a camp. This is no longer a hypothetical. He's actually doing that. And for people to say like it's the same, it is not the same. Taking a person who was a hairstylist, who has a green card, who has all their paperwork, and then shipping them to a concentration camp in another country is not the same that what was happening before. And to say that is disingenuous. It pisses me off when you do that, because you're trying to say that you're trying to inform the public. You're not informing anyone. You're being a dishonest actor.
Especially when we see the evidence that's coming out now about the 2024 election being potentially allegedly tampered with. That's what we have to do. We have to come back and we have to show our numbers by voting, and we have to vote Democrat to make sure that when they try to fuck with the election, we can turn around and be like, oh, no, no, no. We have these sworn affidavits, because that's what the Election Truth Alliance has now in Rockland County, New York, is they have sworn affidavits from voters of who they voted for in the general election for president, and it is not matching the numbers.
And when you see Rockland County, which is so disturbing, and this is New York, this is a place where people are in or have essentially kind of like they're pretty informed and they have rights. Think about in places that have been like amazingly disenfranchised, like Texas, Georgia. Think about what's going on, what went on there. Places that were drifting away from the right, drifting away from the Republican Party. Then all of a sudden, they just all these districts that were part of that Trump lost in 2016. All of a sudden, and Biden won in 2020. All of a sudden, they decided they want to go with Trump now. That is just out in Texas, in Georgia, North Carolina. Because the thing is that the swing states are easier to kind of like, okay, we can look at that. We can go to Wisconsin because we can go to New York. But, I mean, here's the thing. We're still looking at it. Okay, we're still looking at it. But also we can think about this. What about the dangers to people who are marginalized? And here's the thing. You and I, as women, we are part of a marginalized community. We are part of historically fluid communities. So this is not like us talking about like, oh, we're talking and we're about using other people to like, to get our way in regards to we want this person. This is our life. This is a life and death situation for us, and as well as it's a life and death situation for people who are immigrants, like documented immigrants, not just undocumented, documented immigrants, people with the quote unquote wrong last name. I have a Chinese last name. When I went to vote this time, because I voted early, they kept questioning me over and over again. Like I said, I don't know if it was anything, but they kept questioning me, trying to like trick me into like saying my name wrong, to spelling my name wrong. And I don't know, again, I don't know, but is this a taste of what is to come?
Oh, I don't know, but I have been deeply watching The Handmaid's Tale, and it feels eerily similar. And I'm not liking it. And my husband and I had to run some errands today after we dropped my stepson off at home. And we were in that little shopping center, like where the Staples and stuff is, and Walgreens, Dollar Tree. On at 5:15, the parking lot was empty. Like there's if people aren't feeling something different in the atmosphere, they're lying to themselves.
Definitely. And I even think about the media, like even us right now, we're talking, but as you notice, we may have people that we favor, but we're not saying this person is unelectable or this person is electable or this person, of course, but there are other people who are media who are saying, implying this person's too radical, this person's too, you know what? The media, instead of becoming like a Jerry Springer show and a reality TV show, you should be informing people. This is what this candidate thinks. This is what that candidate thinks. So stop using race and gender and religion and all your and urban versus suburban to essentially demonize someone, because we all know that whoever wins needs to be able to be we don't want to taint a person. What if somebody who you didn't like or you didn't prefer wins, and you have set it up where you talked about them so bad that in the general election it's going to make it really hard for them. And the thing is that as a person in the media, it's your responsibility to be objective. When it calls for objectivity, you should be objective and not be harmful and not engage in salacious descriptions of people and biased reporting because you prefer this person over another, especially when we have actual authoritarian fascists in the wings.
Well, and I came across a Reddit thread about this a couple weeks ago, and it did lead me to doing like a little bit of like light research about it. But the New Jersey media landscape is very concerning. Other than like NewJersey.com, there's almost no local news in New Jersey. And I remember growing up here, like the town I grew up in had its own little newspaper with its own little office on Main Street, and so quaint. But like I don't know if you lived in New Jersey when the Star Ledger was still around, but like the Star Ledger had all of its own local branches with all of its own local reporters, and losing the Star Ledger has really allowed and NewJersey.com, who I find to be like, I don't really like their reporting on most things. Like, even if it's positive, it's just kind of like meh. It's really allowed them to own the narrative and maybe a few local reporters or town papers. And it's very difficult to combat misinformation like that.
It is, and while New Jersey Civic Consortium have tried to fund different, has tried to fund small media. Again, the problem is with the local media is that you have the situation where it's so niche. It's so niche. It doesn't really do what the Star Ledger was doing. It doesn't really do what the LA Times was doing. And the LA Times has changed now. So it doesn't do what the LA Times was doing. I remember when I was growing up, we had the LA Times, the Daily News, the LA Examiner, the LA Herald. We had the LA Weekly, which I wrote for. We had the LA City Beat, which I also wrote for. We had Downtown News. These are all newspapers we had, and now, we essentially have solutions journalism. What solutions journalism? Oh, I'm writing about nonprofits. What is this? Like if you don't have a solution, we can't. If you write a story and doesn't have a solution, we can't fund that. I'm like,
what happened to like just like it sounds like really like cheesy and like maybe I live in a comic book world and perhaps I do in my own mind. But like what happened to like like on the beat like local reporters like that just like lived in a town and like even the lady that would write the gossip column, like we've lost so much actual information in this information overload that we have.
wow, wouldn't it be great if Montclair had a gossip column?
it'd be like Bridgerton and the Lady Whistledown papers.
Damn, that used to happen. Okay, I'm giving an idea newsletter gossip, Montclair gossip. Anyway, um, I I feel like but is it possible to critique the Democratic Party and its candidates while still recognizing the importance of defending democracy against the far right? Like what does principled like like I'm just blue no matter what, or red no matter what, like how, what does that look like? I mean, like, can we have like maybe like in-house conversations? And I mean, I don't know.
It really that's it's a return to critical thinking and nuance, which is what lacks social media lacks critical thinking and nuance. That's why I use emojis so often, like so that like my point is like clear when like I text and things like that. But it's still lacking a lot of the nuance that in-person or even telephone conversations can have. Like I found myself having like twice monthly conversation with my brother in Brooklyn. Like he's like, I don't really like to text. And I'm like, that's cool. We can talk on the phone. And it's awesome. I love it. Like I had a phone call the other day with my cousin down in South Jersey. Like we never talk on the phone, but it was like a really fun conversation. Like we need more in person, more telephone, even video conversations with real life people rather than behind a screen. Because it's really easy to dehumanize your opponent when you're behind a screen.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to type bad things about people than to say bad things about people. And I think that that's something, and also, but here's another thing too. I think this is something really important that we have to think about. If a person like Jack Ciattarelli, I hope I'm saying his name right, got into the governorship, think about voters' rights. Think about LGBTQ protections. Think about reproduction justice, environmental policy, education. He said, I'm going to cut education. I'm going to cut transportation. Do you want to be driving into New York or Philadelphia, driving in your car to New York and Philadelphia every single day? Do you want to have, do you want New Jersey Transit to be cut? No weekend service. You're essentially will be trapped in the suburbs. Not suburbs, but it's all urban, but you're essentially be trapped in your town during the weekend unless you have a car. They said they don't like education, and that this is that's my hold on. Did you hear you hear the ambulance in the background? Anyway, they said that they would cut transportation. And so these are all the things that we could lose with in 2025 in November 2025 if we elect the wrong person for the 2026, because that's going to be 2 more years of Trump. And think about the damage. I heard something about New Jersey is that it's not really a town where people have small businesses. Let's be honest. It's not like a small town business place. There are some places where everybody's got a small business. In New Jersey, the middle class is built on working jobs. You have a job, whether you're a teacher, a firefighter, a cop, those would be gone. You work for Metro, you work for the New Jersey Transit, those jobs will be gone. I hope that even those who are moderate, if you are moderate, middle class in New Jersey, I know you are not a business person. A business person. I know most of you don't own restaurants. Most of you don't own bars. And if you do own bars and you do own restaurants, the reason that you have those bars and restaurants are because of the teachers with their union jobs going and bringing their kids to your restaurant. You're there because of the union guys who are in plumbing, who are in welding, who are in building, who are building the infrastructure. You are there because of the nurses, all these union jobs. If those jobs go away, your restaurant goes away. Okay. So the few people who have it, if you are a little landlord, a little fake, like, petty bourgeoisie, like, capitalist, wannabe capitalist, and you got your little apartment, people lose their jobs, you lose your rent. And I think that I hope people really grasp that out here.
And they really, and like, New Jersey is so densely packed that the ripple effect will happen very, very swiftly. Like just the cuts to Medicaid and Medicare that they're talking about is going to affect, just from the federal government, is going to affect the healthcare industry, which is one of the biggest industries in New Jersey. That puts so many nurses, CNAs, nursing homes gone. You going to take care of Mima? You going to bring Mima home? You going to make sure she gets her PRN so she stops punching you?
No, I mean, and I think it's something that people should really kind of understand, instead of kind of going, well, how can we appeal to the people's bias, bigotry bigotry and sexism. We should go, hey, let me explain all the things that are actually going to happen. And here's the thing, we actually have a demonstration. Look at these people who lost their jobs under Trump, who are federal workers who lost. And here's the thing, if you lost your federal job and you are over 40, you are never coming back from that. You are never coming back from that. If New Jersey state jobs go away, you will, and you are 45 or up, and you lose your job, you are done. And I hate saying that. I don't want to be negative, but it's not about being negative. It's about data. It's about what data shows. Who else is going to hire you?
It's you're absolutely right though, because even if you even look, like, I don't have any hard facts or data, but my own experience of going to nursing school during the 2008-2009 recession was very few people, and Lincoln Tech is an adult school, but very few people in that class were under 30. Most people had been laid off and were looking for a recession-proof job. I went to school with people who were in their 50s and 60s who had gotten laid off from jobs that they'd been at for 25 years. And they were like, they couldn't find work in their field anymore because of their age. So they had to change their career entirely and go back to school.
And this is going to be a reality for people. if they can't come together, if they cannot come together, I mean, I think it's the whole thing. We need to really reframe the support for Democratic candidates in general elections, not as compromises, but as proactive defenses of democratic values and for vulnerable communities and your job. Here's the thing. If you work for a living, you're a vulnerable community. I don't care if you're a white man. If you depend on someone writing you a check so you could pay your rent and pay for your food, you are vulnerable in a fascist authoritarian regime.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think, like, in just so many things, we need to, like, look to the French. Like, they really squashed that right wing that tried to pop up. They've made it, like, so that, like, I think that she can't run again. That might be Germany. I might be getting them confused. But even in Germany, they came together. The left-wing parties came together and formed coalitions. It happened all over Europe. Like, people just need to swallow their pride.
I think, they looked at the United States and they were like, oh, wow, didn't think that could happen. Yeah, no one thought this could happen. And I think this is the whole thing. Once we secure ourselves kind of like this. Once we put on our oxygen mask, that's kind of a analogy you often use. Once we put on our oxygen mask, then we can go, okay, and we are breathing, and we are then, because we're in a plane and we're crashing. We put our oxygen mask on, and when we safely land this plane, we dedicate ourselves to creating a better system where this could never happen again. Multi-party system, ranked choice voting, possibly even a parliamentary system, and also get the money out of politics. We can't do this anymore. And I understand people want, like, I want it now. I can't, but we can't just die because we don't want to like compromise right now. I'm like, okay, if you were going to like do this, we should have done, if we were going to make these big moves, we could have done these big moves under Biden. We could. Why did we wait until we had this person who's like, I don't care, I'll kill you all. I sent the Marines to Los Angeles. I don't care. I don't understand why. To me, it's like, are you a bad actor here? Do you want a United States to still exist, or you're just like, this is our opportunity to destroy the country? Yay!
I don't think that people realize how much they feed into fascist ideology with their hardlining and their uncompromising and their, like, to the point where like people won't organize, like there's like vegans that won't organize with people who aren't vegan. Like let's be real. Again, let's put the oxygen mask on first, because we can't help other people if we're dying ourselves.
And with that, I think, we're going to wrap it up. I mean, is there anything else that you would like to say, Kimberly? So here's the thing. I feel like I'm too emotional today because it's like I'm just kind of like watching my city be destroyed by this orange bastard, and I'm really unhappy. But yet at the same time, I'm like, no, we cannot roll up into a little ball. We need to like fight. We need to, do whatever we can. We can. And here's the thing: we can't save democracy. We can do it. It's not like, okay, this is hopeless. Whatever. Right now, we're talking. We're talking. You're listening to the show. So if you're listening to the show, that means it's not too late, because that means you probably found it from social media. You probably found it from email. So that means that we still can communicate. We can still organize. We can still do things. And let's still do things. And with that, I'm going to let you have the final word.
Do not acquiesce in advance.
Exactly. And deciding you're not going to vote, that is giving up in advance. That's going, oh, okay, fine, we're not going to do it. So you're right. That do not quit in advance. Don't acquiesce in advance. That is so important. And with that, I'm going to say good night, or remember to vote. Remember to vote today. Go to your place. The polling places are open. Vote, vote, vote. And good night.
Bye.